Hello all and good evening. My name is John McCall and I'm going to be your host tonight. Welcome to everyone. Any visitors, please? Welcome to you. Hope you have a lovely time and see you again. More. Health and safety, exits over here, and at the back of the hall. And of course we've got the bathrooms out the back as well. Please, cell phones off. Thank you. Now, tonight's program, 8 o'clock, competition critique and the results of PI number 3. The judge was Stephen Webb, and Richard Cooper is going to preside with that. So, Richard?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Do I need a microphone?
Everybody needs a microphone.
Thank you, Mr. McCall. Good evening, everybody. As you know, I'm Richard, but my pleasure to introduce Stephen Webb, who I got to know when my wife and I both belong to Rangiora Photographic Society, and Stephen has been president of that club at least twice that I can remember. And he's recently just had a wee rest from photography, and as soon as he came back into the fold, he's been inundated with requests to do judging. And I remember when we were at Rangiora Photographic Society, he did do a course with PSNZ for judging, but I'm not sure whether he qualified or not, so we'll find out tonight, I guess. So, Stephen, I'll leave it all up to you.
Great, thank
Cheers.
you. All right, I'll go up the front here. You guys see me? So you guys will get to see a heap of the notes. I got told reasonably late in the piece that you guys were all going to get to see what I'd written down. So I spent a considerable amount of time trying to make it readable for you. So you guys will have a bit of a look at that. The only thing I'll say, as I was judging this, the consistency of the image was fantastic. There were some really beautiful images in there, some really creative images coming through. One thing I will just say, and I know that you've probably heard this before, when we go on courses to learn how to do photography and we go to those classes and we all take the same images, sometimes it's best not to put them all into the competition. I've had enough experience to know, just look at them as individuals, but it's very, very hard as a judge to not compare one to the other. And you guys will see what I mean as we go through tonight. So do give it some thought. If you've gone on a course, you've taken a whole heap of the same photos, just think about whether it's the right competition to be putting them all into, because it's hard as a judge to separate them all and give you guys the critique that's required. All right, well, shall we get into it? Ooh, screen's bright. Okay, the first image. I'm going to read a little bit of my stuff to you as I go through, and then I'll expand on it. I can see the intent behind it. The artist here's taken a shot. She's obviously a very attractive young lady standing up against a tree, and I can see what you've tried to do. There's a couple issues with this, in that if you have a look at the lady's face, when it comes to portraiture, and you'll see this pretty consistently tonight, is if your eyes aren't sharp, it doesn't pass. Okay, so you've got to get the eyes sharp. If that's what you're telling me in the image, to look at her eyes and look at her face, it's got to be sharp. This image here could do with a little bit of a crop. The tree is a bit of a distraction, as you guys can see. And then it looks like it's just a wee bit sharp or over sharpened in that back area there, which is really distracting. And that's drawing my eye to the tree rather than the subject. So a crop on the side and to the bottom to draw you into her a little bit would really help the image, but really just trying to get a wee bit sharper. Okay, so that was no award. Do I say that or do you guys say that? I just say one, or what? I can't remember what the awards are. Okay. Okay, cat yawning. And I'm really fond of this image. It's a fantastic image. It entertains me. I look at it and I enjoy it. And I can hear the moment it came up out in the audience, everybody else goes, "That's lovely, you really love it." And it's nice. It's a great image of a cat yawning. Wee bit a couple of things there for me. Really, the focal feature should be the mouth, and that's what you're telling me to look at, and it's just not sharp. When you look at it, it's just not quite there. And I don't know that, for me, I struggled a little bit seeing this in a portrait competition because I felt it was more an open image. I don't think it quite meets the criteria for me of being a portrait of an animal because it's just not engaging enough. And like I said, it's just not quite there. So that's just that's 2 for me. Righto, get into it now. Trying to find the button to make it work. Thank you. Patron Di. This is a really pleasant photo of Patron Di. I mean, obviously she's sitting there. The artist has chosen to do this in a black and white, and I completely understand why. She may have had a bright top, etc. But what's happened in this image, because of the lighting and the way we've got it there, it's made her face very flat. And I noticed this in quite a few of the black and whites. You've got to lift the contrast a little bit on the face in bits and pieces to get a bit more light through her face. It's quite flat, and then the elephant in the room, quite literally, is the picture in the back of her head. Now, to me, it looks like that the intent of the artist or the photographer is to, and I'm assuming, because I'm looking at the story you're trying to tell me, is that image belongs to her, and you're trying to capture both of them at the same time. But unfortunately, what happens is you've got a really nice photo of Di with a picture of her right through the top of her head, and as a viewer, I'm not quite sure what you're telling me to look at. Am I looking at her? Am I looking at the picture? It just becomes a little bit confusing. So I think you would be better to have that photo out of the background, and it would have been a lovely portrait of her. That's a 2. Down the saddle. Okay. This photo catches a compelling moment, and it made me wonder what's going on. I mean, obviously he's dressed up for polo, but there's no horses. I don't quite know what's going on, but he looks pretty cool leaning against the post there. Once again, this has been you've chosen to do this image in a black and white, but given you're out in the natural light and you've got a white shirt, what's tended to happen is his face is in shadow. You're not really seeing that particularly well, and it makes the image feel a little bit flat and less engaging. It could do with quite a big crop from my point of view. The image is actually in here. These sticks and bits and pieces don't add too much to the image, so think about cropping it a little bit. But once again, and this will come through, the theme will come through quite a bit, when you're doing portraiture, your focus should be on the person or the subject in the photo. And what I see quite a bit of is once I see that this tree is growing out the top of his head, I can't get past it. Okay, so think about your background, because it wouldn't have taken much to walk around and get a better light on his face and have a better background. But just think about that. The tree, once you see it, it's there, and it ruins the image, unfortunately. So that's a 2. Belle in a happy place. Okay. I've got down there, this image puzzled me initially because of its composition. And there's some creative choices being made here that I'm not quite sure why, but we'll talk through that. Right, so the decision to use monochrome in here, I think, is obviously the correct one. It's a very busy background, and you've got rid of the background really well. You've got nice strong light on here, but there's an unusual blue cast to the image, and I don't think it's the right choice for this particular shot. It just gives her skin a quite slightly, and I don't want to offend anybody, but slightly unhealthy hue, and it's not quite right. As far as when I talk about composition, she's very engaging, but then got these crossed hands right at the front of the image, and then knee up, and it's almost like she's stopping me to get going into the image to read it. So just think about with your composition, you know, there's a shot in here of your face, just the head and shoulders. It doesn't need the hands and bits pieces at the front. They create a barrier to getting in there. So that's a 2. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. I've written down there, wow, what a fascinating subject to photograph. I mean, he's just all sorts of really cool. And the longer you look at this image, the more you find in it. I found it really fascinating. And it wasn't until I'd looked at it probably the second time that I realized it was his foot that's out the back of his head. So I looked at it a long time, and I think what the art has done is really nice. You've got a really good use of a frame within a frame, setting him up, so your composition's pretty much bang on. I think what you've done this fabulously. I like the treatment you've given it. It gives it a bit of a surreal feel, and he sort of fits into that category. But his eyes aren't sharp. And it's a real disappointment, because this would have been image right up there, but his face isn't sharp. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to be really consistent about that all night. If your eyes aren't sharp, it's just not what we need to be at a competition level. All right, so that was a 2. Okay, portrait of a man from Kathmandu. Now he's dressed in his traditional attire, which I think is really interesting. It's a really interesting photograph, but then the technical elements of it start to creep in, which make me a bit uncomfortable with it. And the main thing is that really got me initially is he's very angular and uncomfortable in the frame. I don't know if you guys feel that, but when you look at it, it just looks like crooked. It makes it feel like a snapshot. Now, the bricks are crooked as well. So, I mean, the whole image, if it's straightened up, would be a huge improvement to that image, to go firstly. And then your second challenge is really the harsh light that you're shooting in. The strong light has cast real deep shadows over his eyes. And this is a particularly bright screen, which is good, you know, like you don't use that, but on a calibrated screen, it's very dark in those eyes, and I lost the ability to travel into the photo, look at his eyes, and down around his chin and bits and pieces, those dark lights around there. So those could easily be fixed with a little bit of post-production, to be fair, just put a little bit of light in there, and it would take that image to another level. But first and foremost, it just needs to be straight in the frame, for me. Having fun at 90. Great shot. You've captured somebody having a great time, and I mean, she radiates joy and happiness, and this composition of the image is lovely. I mean, you've really thought about it. You've got her sitting beautifully in the frame, the flowers at the front. All those things work pretty well, and it gives a real light-hearted, happy feel to the image. Unfortunately, she's just not sharp in the eyes. And that's the only thing I have really with the problems with this issue. I mean, you could have toned down a couple of the highlights. They tend to draw your focus is up here, and you've given it a great, the white hat around it has highlighted her face and makes you want to look into her eyes, which is slightly out of focus. And because they're out of focus, you drift down to this really strong highlight, which drags you out of the image a little bit. So I don't know that you could sharpen that, but it just needs something. Unfortunately, it didn't quite get there because of those eyes. Okay. This is a really well-seen shot. You captured a candid moment showing the concentration of a subject, painting their face for whatever it is. And the beauty of a shot like this is it makes me ask questions. And I had a look at this for a long time, and I thought, what's it for? I don't recognise the rugby colours. I don't know quite what's going with it. It's cultural, what it was. So I think you've captured that moment really well. And it's obviously snapped reasonably quickly, but you've captured it. Done that. Okay. But the technical execution doesn't quite live up to the standard you set by the content. The image suffers from a lack of sharpness, and that's throughout the image. It might be a bit movement or whatever, but the whole image is just slightly soft. And once again, that lets you down, which is a bit of a shame. Okay, that's a 2. You're a very quiet audience. I'm used to people yelling at me by now. Okay, the dancers. I've spoken to the author of this, and we had a talk, and he's done a wonderful job with the light. I thought the light in this was fantastic. The emotion between the back dancer looking towards the front was great. They didn't need any engagement with the camera because they're so involved and joyful about what they're doing, which is fantastic. It just looks great, and he's done an incredible job with the light. I struggled a little bit. Once again, this is a very bright image on the screen here, but on the actual, on another screen, it's very black. And what that did is created the feeling, because the dancers are so well lit, it felt like they were floating in space, and they had no context of where they were, which was a little bit unsettling. And the other thing, then I started looking around the image, and I came to these feet. Now, I know they're a little thing, but they've created this optical illusion because I don't think they've put together. It's definitely her foot, but it looks like a heck of a long leg to me. And once you see it, it's very hard to unsee. And when you do an image like this, as an artist, what you want to do is cast your eye around and give it some real thought, and just look for something that's going to be a distraction to the viewer. And once you see this, it's hard not to see. So it would have been easy to quickly clone out. I'm not sure what the rules in your competitions are, by the way, but I just would have cloned that out and got a little more colour in this back floor, so it didn't feel like they were floating in space and they had some context in the image. That was a 3 acceptance, I think, isn't it? Is it a 3 for you guys? Cool. Nana's love. I thought this photograph beautifully captures a tender moment of affection between a grandmother and a dog. The eye contact is particularly compelling and speaks volumes about their relationship. The decision to present the image in black and white was astute, as it stops any potential distractions of colour. Often polka dots can be white and red, so it can be quite distracting. They've done a fabulous job by toning that all down. It gets your eye where it needs to be, which is that contact between her and the dog, and that's the crux of the whole image. And I think they've done a fabulous job there. Overall composition of the image is thoroughly executed, with the contact of the eyes of both the dog and the woman, both on thirds. It gives a really nice balance to the image. The space with the, sorry, let's go back here. The space between this negative space has worked really well as well, part of the composition. This negative space they've used has been offset by that bright side over there. So the image feels really balanced, nice in the frame. The only thing I would suggest would be a little bit less tight crop on the top of the image, and tone these down a little. But otherwise, it's a lovely image. That's a 3. Young model. Okay, this image certainly sets the stage for a captivating portrait. It's lots of promising elements. It's got a striking model, elaborate costumes, studio lightings, and whoever's done this, the dedication to set up and do all this, I commend you on it, because it's not easy to do. However, the lighting arrangement hasn't capitalised on the strong components that you've brought together. There's an opportunity here that's been missed. She's not quite silhouetted heavily to give a full silhouette. She's not quite lit enough on the face to give me details on her face. So it sits in a bit of a middle ground, and then that makes the image quite flat with the very bright on the back drawing me away from your subject. So I think I need to look at that. The composition of the model is, composition of the image is good. The model's pose is quite good. She's got that faraway gaze making me want to look where she's going. It's a really nice pose. And I've just put to enhance the image, you could use a bit of fill light, frontal light to get onto the model's face, so the viewer can appreciate the details that are currently lost in the shadows. This adjustment would not only reveal the quality of the costume, but also create what is a vital connection between the subject and the viewer in the model's eyes. At the moment, they're just a bit flat. There's just not enough light caught in those. So, but I give it a 3 because you've done a lot of work, and I commend you on getting stuck and do this for a shot. KP Judy. Okay, photo catches, I'm reading a little bit of this because I spent a bit of time writing it, so I want to make sure I read it. The photo captures the subject doing something, he's full of happiness, a great smile, and he's just, and I mean, I think you do, I mean, he's got a fantastic smile, you've captured his eyes brilliantly. It's a hard light that you've been working in, direct light and sunlight in this sort of day is incredibly hard when you're looking at subjects like in portraiture. So you've handled the light brilliantly on his face, etc. I would look at going around the image. One of the things I found was these highlights in the back could do with a wee tone down. It would certainly raise the image from where it is to the next level. They are a wee bit of a distraction, and you don't want anybody distracted because that's a fairly strong image. And then I've use of a net. You guys use vignettes around here? It doesn't seem to be in any images, but if a small vignette around the outside would really help this image. You don't need to be able to see it, but it would just hold your eye in there a little bit, because at the moment you've got these bright lines, your eye comes out and it drifts up out of the image. If you had a small vignette, it would just hold your eye in that a little bit more. And that was a 3. Brent. The headshot of Brent is competently executed, showcasing a clarity of image. It makes it really suitable for likes of social media, headshot, links, LinkedIn, wherever. It's a great shot of the face. It catches his character really nicely. From a technical point of view, it's really well managed. The light, especially careful handling of the reflection in the glasses. I think we've all probably struggled when you've got a model sitting in front of you and it's not getting light reflecting on the glasses is a real key. You've done a really good job there. There are some hot spots on the nose and around a wee bit that could probably be toned down. But the biggest thing I struggled with was the gold chain. And while it anchors the images a little bit in the shot, it's very bright. And it just draws me away from Brett's face down into this gold chain. So once again, just think about distractions. I mean, what you're trying to talk to and what you're trying to give the person looking at the image is, I want to look in his eyes, not romantically, but I want to look in his eyes, and then I find my eyes drifting down to that very bright cross. And then once I've been released from the eyes, I want to wander out of the image. So just give that some thought. All right, so that's a 3. Okay. I've got a striking photograph of the German Shepherd, which you've really caught the essence of him. He's so alert. I kind of want to know what he's looking at. He looks like he's about to take off, and I'm sure whoever took the photograph had to get him to stay there. He's obviously really got his attention on something just out of frame, and you can feel that intensity in the shot. His ears are upright. Everything about him looks like he's about to go, which is fantastic. However, the yellow in the background is a bit distracting. All those flowers, they're a bit hard to see past. And once again, I've said a small vignette may help in this, just to hold your eye in there. It just hasn't got a boundary on the outside of the image. But otherwise, it's a really nice shot of the dog. 3. Okay. This portrait captures the Kia beautifully. I mean, it highlights the characteristics of a Kia. They've got that curiosity, intelligence in their eye, and when you look into that eye, you just see it looking there, and it's thinking about how it's going to rip the window screen out of your car. It's one of those birds that you love to see when you're up there, and they're just so nice to be around. What did I say? However, it would benefit from a bit of additional depth if it was my image, and you guys can do what you want, but I think just a little bit of, I don't know if you guys paint with light or do anything else, but a little bit of more contrast in his beak would have really brought the image to life a little bit. It's a wee bit flat, and then you've got this little bit of burnout across the top, which just draws you away from that eye a little bit. Those are the only things I tone down a little bit around that beak area, darken the beak and the top of the head a little bit, and it would be even more compelling. It would draw you in. Once again, I would strongly suggest putting a small vignette around that image, because that green, because it's just so green and it's one colour, it feels like the bird's been stuck on it a wee bit. And I think if you put a wee vignette, it would just draw and hold you in that image a little bit. Okay. When I looked at this, I was really drawn to the guy's concentration and determination. He's about to start soaring, I think, obviously, because there's no bits and pieces flying around. And he looks absolutely right into it, which is fantastic. When I looked at the image, I looked around the image, and portrait photographer, like every other type of photography, is about timing. Okay? And when you look at the image in the back, the guy playing with his nose is just a distraction, really is. A couple seconds either side of that, you know, you would have been right. And I know it's always easy when the judge stands up here and says things like, you know, get lower, take more time, all those sorts of things. It doesn't really happen in reality. But when you've got an image like this, it's a bit disappointing because there's so much there. One of the other things I'll say is once you've chosen, once again, black and white, which is, there's a reason for that. And I'd imagine there's a lot of colours going on, bright t-shirts in the background, bunting, everything else. So it's a really good choice. The image is a wee bit flat. When I look at it, it's a little bit more grayscale than a nice black and white. So a little bit more contrast. And then, let's see if I can get this thing going so I don't stand in front of it. No. Then what I should strongly suggest, if the artist is here, is crop it through here and across his top's head. And what that does, when you look at the image, I held a couple bits of paper up, as soon as you do that, that image became so much more powerful because it creates this diagonal across the image, which makes the image far more dynamic. And this adds not a lot to your image, to be fair with you. And then, once again, I put a wee vignette around it just to try to hide that guy in the corner a wee bit, bring the focus down off him. But a really nicely well-captured image. And that's a 3. Rennie on the prowl. It's a pretty solid image of a cat. It's beautifully captured. They've used the black and white again to minimise the distractions from the background and focus my attention on the cat, which is good. The image is well executed. A bit more engagement from the cat would have really added. I mean, if the cat was looking at the camera, and I know once again you've heard judges say this sort of stuff all the time, but if it was just looking at the camera, it would have really lifted the image to a whole different level. But we all know, those of us who have had cats in our lives, you can't get them to do anything, so I completely understand why he's not looking at you. Incorporating a softenette or something like that just to draw the eye of the photographer in again. And I keep saying it, and I don't know whether you guys don't use them or not, but it certainly helps, as long as it's subtle. Right, next one. Oh, sorry, 3. Okay, and welcome. I said this portrait offers a captivating glimpse of a really intriguing character. You certainly want to look at the image for a while. It's captured using natural light, which is great, and the lighting on the face is pretty well executed in general. I did struggle with the subject's teeth and headwear being a little bit bright, and they detracted. And what that does, because they're so bright, it makes the eyes sink away in the image a little bit. I'd tone those down fractionally if I was here, and it would make a much stronger image. Overall, your composition's really good. You're adhered to the traditional portraiture composite size, which is fantastic. Adjusting a little bit of light and post-production, etc., would lift the image to the next level. Okay, and that was a 3. Okay, I spent quite a lot of time on this image. I had to come back to it a number of times, which is good, which means you've probably done 90% of the work. If there's something in there that's drawing me, I think you've captured a fair bit. What have we got here? So what else did you've got there? You've got all the fundamental elements for an exceptional portrait here. You've got all the bits. But unfortunately, together as a collective, they haven't quite worked. The focal point should be the eyes, which is the most compelling. And she's got stunning eyes. I mean, if you've got to get hold of this model again, use her again, because she's got stunning eyes, and I think the potential for using that model is fantastic. The hat, to me, is the problem. It's in focus over the top, and the rim's out of focus. Obviously, use of shallow depth of field is what you want, and it's worked reasonably well with the rest of the image. But what it does is it creates this break in the image, and it's really distracting. The other thing is, when you're doing portraits for faces, etc., watch the use of hands. They can be a real distraction. And like I said, this hand here, out of focus, is fine. It is quite large in the frame, as we will see, but it's fine. This one here is a wee bit open, and it just stops a little bit. All that needed was a little turn, half turn, and narrow that hand down, so it's more, rather than that, it's that. It will really enhance the image and help frame that image. But unfortunately, that hat, and I can see why you want to use it. It's a fabulous hat, but it's just not ideal. And all I want to do is get in that image and rip that hat off, because I think her with the headscarf would have been a fabulous shot. Okay, so well done with what you've done there, and I just think you just need to work on a bit more. If you get rid of those hat, or you've got another shot without the hat, I think you'll have an image that will have some real powerful impact. This is 3. Okay. This image is quite compelling. It showcases a proficient post-production technique. This isn't easy to do, and I know if anybody else has tried doing it, and I certainly have in the past, it's not that easy to do to get a nice balance and feel to the image. And you've done very well. You've used a visual effect on the hair. Now, I don't want to pick on it, but it looks like Fractilius or one of those. And I think it looks fabulous, works fabulously for the hair. It really draws me up, and his hair looks great. It's a bit overdone and makes him feel cartoonish, in my eyes, around the eyes there. So I just think if you get rid of that technique through there a little bit and just leave it on the hair, I think it will make a much, much stronger image. The lighting on the subject's done really well, and the use of a black background isolates him really well. Nevertheless, the fading around the neck gives an odd disconnect to the image. And I don't know, once again, these are only my views when I'm sitting there looking at these, analysing them, but there's a fade around the neck, and I think it just needs that neck to go all the way down, which will anchor it in the frame a little bit more. It's just got this disconnected floating feel because of that little subtle thing. So those are a couple of easy things to touch up if it was me, and I think you've got a much stronger image. Okay, so that was a 3. Mr. Goat, is that right? Yeah, Mr. Goat. So that's this photo captures the unique charm of a man goat. Particularly notable because of his quaint beard, and he has got quite a good little beard going on there. And that adds a really nice touch to the photo when you look at the title. Technically, the photograph's really well executed, showing good use of depth of field, nicely blurs the background and isolates the subject. Overall, the sharpness on the image is great. Compositionally, it's pretty good. A small crop on this side would help. It's only small. It just would bring that image into the centre, and it would just feel a bit more balanced in the frame. It feels a little bit lopsided at this stage. But that's good. That was, I said that's all it needed to do on that one, and it was pretty good, engaging photo, so well done. 3. Gosh, it's like being up here and there's nobody here. Okay, this image had a lot going for it. You've got a beautiful model, effective lighting, pleasing depth of field, and a nice pose. And these elements all together form a solid foundation for a striking photograph. However, a few areas where improvement can enhance the overall image. Firstly, the composition is a bit off. It feels like it's not in the centre, it's just not quite there, and it doesn't need to be in this format. I think if you brought the crop in a little bit tighter, it would give a bit more height to the image, and it would feel a little more comfortable in the frame. Then the next thing that probably comes up to mind is you've got a wonderful red jacket, and I applaud you for using it, but it's too bright. You've got a wonderful model, and the model is where your focus should be, and it's very hard for my eye to settle on that. Because you've got all the right elements there, this is one of those things where I think a use of a black and white would really help the image. I think you've got a striking model, you've got wonderful light on her face, you've got a nice catch light in her eye, everything's right, there's no overexposure. If you just put it in a black and white, I think you'll probably find that will lift the image considerably, because the distraction of the red jacket is detracting from your overall image. But I think with the black and white it'd be really compelling. That's a 3. Okay, this photo captures a delightful moment between 3 friends who are clearly good friends. The engagement with the boy at the end who is smiling back at the other 2 adds a genuine touch of camaraderie and warmth to the scene. I appreciate the infectious smiles that radiate happiness from the scene, and while conveying some joyful moment that they're having together. And there's some great teeth there. While I understand the initial choice to include the tree branches in the top corner to form a natural frame, I think your crop could do to be a bit smaller and get rid of that one in the corner. I can see why you've done it, and I completely understand, but it doesn't add anything to the image. So a wee crop would really help emphasise the image a bit more. And also, just watch backgrounds in shots like this. You've got the tree line running through his head, when once again half of 6 inches up, and you would have got him completely silhouette or against the back without that line running through him. But otherwise it's a really nice image, and you've captured a moment that those kids will look back on in years and really enjoy. So well done. That's a 3. Okay. I'm going to read some of this because I wrote a lot about this. Okay, I truly appreciate the artistic intent behind this photograph, aptly titled Sculptured in Shallows. The photographer's goal has been well realised. The model is effectively positioned in the centre of the frame and enveloped in a dark shadows. It excellently draws your eyes to the subject. Unfortunately, I've got however. The arrangement of the model could do with some refinement. The positioning of the front hand becomes a visual distraction, distracting from the overall impact. Similarly, the vertical arm leading to the face contrasts with the direction in which the model was looking, creating a disjointed effect. A repositioning of the arm would be into a more harmonious angle, and cropping out the front hand would really enhance the image. This is one where I was able to just put a bit of paper across, and this was, with a few of the changes, would have been the strongest of the 3 Georgia photos we're going to see tonight. But that arm, I don't know if you guys can see what I mean. If I've got an arm coming out straight at you, it's quite a hindrance to getting into the image. And she's looking away, so all it needed was the arm to come across slightly, and it's not going to block you from the image, and get rid of that other heavy hand, because I know Georgia, and her hands aren't that big. All right? So it just, when you've got a hand up front like that, it just becomes a bit much in there. So I would look at just getting rid of the hand. And if you've got another one with arm, but like I said, the light on the face, the little hair, catch from the hair is wonderful, but it's just not quite there. So that's a 3. Okay. This is a charming capture of a New Zealand fur seal. The composition is excellently crafted. This one here uses the old golden circle really well. Your eye comes in, comes around onto his face, and it's a beautiful light on the side of him. You capture the moment well. I mean, if I'm going to be a judge and criticise, I'd prefer his eye open, but you can't ask seals to do what seals do, so that's fine. This one, challenging lighting conditions, you've really got it right as far as the lighting and the depth of field. Once again, me personally, I put a small vignette around it just to bring me in a little bit more, but it's a lovely image. It's sharp all the way through, and well done on that one, and that's a 3. All right. Okay. I said this portrait stands out for its emotional resonance. catching a really candid moment, which tells me a story. I look at it and he's engrossed in that. And I mean, you can't get, people would say you might want to look at the camera, but I don't think you do in this image. It's fantastic. His skin's so, he's just smooth. You've got this lovely diagonal arms working through the image. He's pouring, there's activity. It just holds you at every level. I think it's a real standout image out of the group. There we go. Additionally, your use of the shallow depths of field has really highlighted him and brought him forward and keeps your eyes attracted there. I've got the changed the composition slightly. If it was me and you've still got the shot and you've cropped this in, I just get that bottom of that cut back in. I mean, nowadays it's pretty easy to put that back in. It just feels slightly truncated in the bottom, but that's really the only criticism I've got. I've got then this is a powerful piece of portraiture which successfully captures the authentic emotion. With a couple of slight adjustments, it could be elevated even further, ensuring the story it tells is much more strongly felt. So those little couple of changes, but otherwise, well done. Whoever saw it, well, it's great to capture. And that's 4. This image. Righto. I've got here, once again, there was a couple of images you guys managed to produce that made me go back to them time and time again. And the title of this one is A Friendly Couple. Now, traditionally I wouldn't view it that way. There's obviously somebody quite in love with somebody else, but he doesn't look particularly interested at this point in time. So I've got here, so the image really intrigues me. The title of Friendly Couple is a bit ambiguous at best, especially when the man in the subject looks the opposite to friendly. And he certainly does. He gives me that feel that he could be, some sort of in the mafia or something else. He's got quite an imposing feel to him, and that's really cool. The title and the man's less than friendly facial expression create a compelling contradiction and challenges for the viewer to look, and you look deeper when you see this. The lack of apparent interaction between the couple as they both seem drawn to something out beyond the frame further adds to the mystery of their relationship. And it does, that they're both looking out of the frame, neither of them looking at the camera, so it doesn't feel like a pose. The choice of black and white is stylish, and it's done really well. It's very strong black and white. There's true blacks, true whites. Doesn't feel grain-scale to me at all. It's a really nice image. In the background, once again, is the row of lights. I just use a healing brush and get rid of them. They don't add anything to your image, and they're a highlight, and they distract you. And same with this, I'll just tone that down slightly because it tries to drag you out of the image. In summary, the image is really intriguing. The monochrome adds the artistic touch. There's potential for technical improvement that could elevate the photograph, ensuring that the viewer's curiosity is matched by the visual appeal. But that's a 4. Well done. Interesting shot. Okay. This is one of those images, once again, as you got to the top here, you guys were creating some intriguing images where I kept on coming back to them. And I've said that I've got here, I'm consistently frustrated by certain aspects of this image. The subtle glimpses of the model are intriguing. I mean, there's beautiful light on her shoulders, on her jawline coming down, but it's just a fraction dark for me. And then, because it's dark and I can't see in here, I'm drawn up to the hat, and then the hat has a similar sort of thing going on. And I know the light's coming through, and I know it's probably an artistic decision that you've made, and it is a stunning image. It made me go back to it many, many times, but I think it could be lifted by a little fraction more front light, just to give you a bit more detail in her lips and through the top, and it would make it into a stunning image. The way it is, it's just bordering on fine art photography. It's very clever, and I think a wonderful use of light, but I think you just haven't quite got there. So a little bit more on that and you'll have a fantastic image that will be winning competitions. That's a 4. Okay. Captivating. This image is a classic example of a timeless portraiture, and it is. I think we've all seen this in Renaissance images, etc. It's always been well used, and it works really well. You've created a really compelling circular motion of the image, so you can't get in. You get in to see George's face, and then once you're in there, you're captured by the face. There is a little bit of work I would, if it was me, I would tone down this high light on the side of her nose slightly. It's just a wee bit distracting on the image, and that would enhance the eye if you weren't drawn to that a little bit. You could probably put a little bit more light into that eye as well. It would just make it a little bit better. The skin and lips are rendered absolutely perfectly, and the subtle highlight in the hair down here is beautiful. It just holds me in the image. I think whoever's done this, you've done a fantastic job. It could do with a couple more things, and I said overall a couple minor tweaks to the eye around the and that nose area. You could achieve a greater emotional and visual impact. The existing elements are skillfully captured, making it nearly a flawless portrait, and that's 4. Ruffled lemur. I've got this portrait of the lemur is beautifully captured, showcasing excellent composition and circular flow that draws the viewer's attention to the head, then to the centrally located eye. The pose is engaging, featuring a thoughtful, contemplated stare off into the distance, directed towards the front, which cleverly pulls the viewer's eye back to the centre. The choice to use black and white in this simplifies the visual elements of it, focusing the viewer's attention on the eye, which is great. Additionally, there's lovely light captured in the lemur's eye, adding a spark and depth to the overall image. The portrait not only captures the physical details, but also hints at a deeper, more introspective personality. So it looks like he's contemplating and gazing off into the distance, thinking about something or worrying about something. So it's a really nice image, and I gave that a 4. Georgia. Okay. This portrait of Georgia is striking. It intentionally focuses your attention on the one eye, and they've done that beautifully. It's as sharp as a tack, and it looks great. The lighting's really effective, and it just drags you in. Nonetheless, notice what over illumination on the side of the nose again, which could easily be toned down post-production. Lets the image down a little bit. The bright spot could be subdued, and that would give you her eye an undisputed make her eye undisputed on the image, because that's where you'd go to. At the moment, you're a bit distracted between the high eye and brought back down to that highlight, and there's a little bit of competition going on for your attention on that. I've got there the image benefits from the subtle. It's got a very soft feel. She's slightly out of focus in the lips, and that's fine, because that's not what you're trying to sell me. You're selling me her eye, and that's okay. And it's softened the skin and gives her quite a beautiful look. The overall composition is dynamic, with the elements arranged to create a circular flow that naturally brings my viewing back to the eye. Improvements could be made by refining the light over her nose, and this is just real subtle and picky, but I would tone down that earring a little bit as well. It's not adding much. It doesn't add a balance to the image because you're centrally located on the eye. So it could be done, just take it down a little bit. Doesn't need much, but that's there. And that was a 5. I'm getting up there now. I said, this image is truly captivating. The photographer has masterfully captured a moment that instantly grabs your attention. And I think you guys would agree with that. The moment you see that, it goes, wow. And I want to know what's going on there. And it invites me to dive deeper into the image. And I comes across, you've done this wonderful depth of field. So I kind of get the feeling there's something going on, but there's not enough to hold me there, but there's not enough to let me out. And it draws me back to her face again, and I think it's very, very cleverly done with the composition. It's not traditional, but it works really well. There's a huge amount of skill in the shot. It's been snapped, and it's obviously at an event. It's not staged, I wouldn't think, and I'm only speculating, of course, but it's like razor sharp right the way through. There's nothing out of focus in it. It's captured a fantastic mood, and like I said, it just makes me feel like I want to be what they're doing when I see it. Overall, it's an exceptional shot that demonstrates a purposeful thought process to the composition and the subject. So well done. That's great work. And that's a 5. Right. 6. Wow. So you've got to start that because it is a fantastic image. The image is truly spectacular, showcasing some truly unique composition which offers a fresh perspective on a ballerina. The use of golden spiral and its arrangement works beautifully, drawing the viewer's eye through the image naturally in a flowing manner right to her face, which is just absolutely beautifully lit, and it's just everything about it's right. There's striking contrast between the darker left element there, so you've got this white and the dark over there, and she's sitting on that 45 through the image. It just makes the whole image dynamic and beautiful, and it balances when you look at it. It adds so much drama to the shot, just having that diagonal. Her arms pretty much perfectly opposed to that, so it's another angle coming through. These are triangle that you were talking about earlier. So I think it's just an absolutely stunning image all the way through. Because I'm a judge and I've got to find something to pick on, this needs to be just fractionally toned down. That's it. Everything else is bang on. Like I said, it's one of the nicest images I've seen in many years, so whoever did it, well done. And it's a well-deserved 6. And that's it. Do I answer questions, or do I get out of here as quickly as I can? Whose is this? They here? Oh, it's fantastic. Wonderful shot. And there was lots of really good images. I think you guys would have seen this fair bit of the same things were getting said over and over and over again. Watch your backgrounds. Think about a vignette. You've got to keep your eye on your portrait. And if you've got a messy background, a vignette's the easiest way to cheat it out. I mean, I know it sounds there, but I just didn't see any, so I don't know whether they've gone out of fashion. I've only been out of photography for a year. I don't think things change quite that quickly. So just think about those couple of things. Backgrounds, light on your, focus on your eyes, make it nice and sharp, and then just think about the composition of your image. And this is a beautiful example of somebody who's thought about that long and hard. So well done. Do I have to come down?
Thank you, Stephen, for fabulous judging.
No, I don't know if that's true. But
well, I think you might have qualified that course after all.
yeah. Yeah.
So now we have the certificates to hand out if you would...
Oh, I thought you were giving me a certificate because I'd done well.
Oh, no, no.
Okay.
I've got one of those too.
I was going to pin it on my wall and say, actually, finally, I'm qualified. Yeah, you got your flash glasses on, mate. You read it.
Yeah, these are new. You'll pass them to me.
And then there you go. Got 'em.
They've always been a good husband and wife team, to be fair, haven't you?
Done right. Okay, thank you, Alan. Oh, sorry, say the word for me.
Bharatanatyam.
Thank you, Alan Moore.
Thank you.
Acceptance, well done. All right.
Brilliant. Well done. Well done, mate. Thank you. I'm glad you have to read them out. That kept Mum want to do, and it's going to be tricky.
Raymond Wright. Sorry, next, am I supposed to say? Sorry. Raymond Wright with the portrait of Di.
No. No, that's Nana's Love, isn't it?
Oh, Nana's, I'm sorry. Nana's Love, sorry. I'm allowed to make mistakes. It's not here.
I'll just put it down on the seat.
And then Diane Anderson, model,
Young model.
young
Yep.
model.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well done.
Diana here? No. Over here.
Diana.
Oh,
Oh, it's patron
no,
Di.
we'll come to you. Well done. There we go. That doesn't happen often. Then we have Jane Barnes with KP duty.
Well done, Jane. Nice shot.
Well done. Then we have someone called Richard Cooper with Brent.
Well done. Well done.
Chris Van Denberg.
Well done, Chris.
Acceptance.
Nice shot.
Well done, Chris.
Thank you.
And another acceptance for Keating, is it?
Well done.
Well
Nice
done.
shot.
Beautiful Kia. Karen McConaughey. Acceptance in the zone. Well done.
Well done, Karen. Really nice.
Pip Wright. That's Remy and on
think
the
they-
prow. Oh yes. No, not here. Karen Dance. Oh, sorry, Dance.
Well done. Nice shot. Thank you.
Fabulous image. Well done. And John Thornton with Zelda.
Great model.
Well done.
You did. You did. I've caused arguments in our house, I can tell you. Well, I didn't see that. I'll take a step back.
Is John Hawkins here tonight? John Hawkins with Happy Jack. Dennis Chang with Mr. Goat. Well done.
Well done, Dennis. Good shot.
Well accepted.
Thank you.
Dennis. And Les Armon. Up here. Well done. Who's that? Oh, so Bonnie Stitkamp. Well done. She-
The bunny.
Not here. Not sure that these glasses are that good, but there we go. Anna Stevens. No, not here either. Just making it go very quickly. Ian Kim. Chim Kim. Oh, Beauty, no, not here.
Joe Curtis isn't here tonight.
Uh,
Ted Paws.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Fabulous shot.
Thank you, Joe. Goes away down south.
Now we're up to high acceptance.
Oh, yes, now we're up to high acceptances. This was the anomaly, wasn't it? Great photograph. Timothy Gottsimer. You should be doing this. You're better at it than I am. Cornelia Schultz. High acceptance. No, Cornelia's not here. Another high acceptance for JK. Thank you. High acceptance. JK's here. Oh, finally got someone here. Well done, JK.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you. Lovely shot.
You should be doing that.
Do you want me to do?
Yeah.
He's struggling.
I'm struggling. comes over to the...
Okay. High acceptance. Anne Yuan. It's not here tonight.
Well done.
Michael Bremer. And honours for Georgia. Francesca Davies. Not here. Masked Exuberance.
Oh,
Ron Willems.
Of course it is.
Not here. Wow. And honours and best in show, resting moment, Penny Kennedy. And she's not here. Oh, what a shame. Golly gee, that was a great image. And Stephen, thank you, because the insights that you were giving were very, very good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank
Okay,
you very much.
no trouble.
Much appreciated.
That's right. You guys obviously get to see the notes, so I spent a little bit of time making them readable. So, but if you've got any questions, just don't hesitate to give me a call, or just find out, and I can tell you why I was thinking what I was thinking if you disagree. All right. Okay, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, there's more to portraiture than meets the eye. Thank you very much. There's some important dates for the future. Looks nice. Thank you. Wednesday, the 8th of May, at 7 o'clock, we have Ian Morthwick to speak to us. He's a New Zealander based in Paris, and he's also a rugby journalist and an award-winning photographer. And he's here just for the month that he goes away, so it'd be really nice to hear him. And we have at 8 o'clock Jeff Cloak from Timaru, and he has an interest in all facets of photography, including the night sky. On Wednesday, the 15th of May, 7 o'clock session, we have an introduction to AVs and also a showcase of the recent fungi forage at the Ball River. And 8 o'clock, session, competition critique and results of print number 2. The closing dates for future competitions, please see Diana notes on the news that she gives out. On the 1st of May, that's tonight, is the final for the projected image number 4. From the PSNZ, I'll just read out that the 2nd of June is the closing date for the New Zealand Landscape Salon, which is the Laurie Thomas competition. And that is on the website run by CPS. It's now open, by the way. And you can go to a website at www.nzlandscapesalon.photo/ if you can take that one in. Thanks for opening and closing of Dennis, and meet and greet Dennis too, I think. Sound, Andrew and Tim. Projection, Alan. And the 7 p.m. program, thank you, Heidi, for your most imaginative gear and your program. And supper, Dennis. Yes, Dennis again, thank you. And we invite you all to next week's program on the 8th of May, which will be 7 o'clock Ian Borthwick and 8 o'clock Jeff Cloak. So thank you very much and good night, and see you next week. good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you.
See you again.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I'll bring this jolly book for you. I had it out to bring you up to bring a bit of a fluff tonight. So,
Yeah, well, we don't come back for the next few weeks because we're going to be away. We're off down to Cromwell again on the 13th
are you?
and we'll be
Thank
back
you.